One of the most critical aspects of timing in tennis is your ability to accurately read and predict where the ball is going to arrive and when the ball is going to arrive, so you can start your swing at the right time and so that you can adjust your swing appropriately to make contact in the ideal position. And in order to do that, you have to have a tremendous level of visual spatial awareness and an ability to accurately read distance and depth and speed. And the reality is that this is something that a lot of players struggle with. Their visual systems just don't function at a sufficiently high level to allow them to play tennis and time the ball in the way that they want. The good news though is that vision is actually very trainable. Now, there could potentially be a few things going on with your system that are causing problems with your timing, but in this video, I want to work on two specific assessments. So we're going to be assessing specific visual skills that might be creating problems for you. If you identify either of these problems, it's something you can work on that's really going to help you to time the ball more efficiently. I hope you find the video helpful. If you do, it'd be awesome if you give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, it'd be great if you could do that as well. The first assessment we're going to do is for something called convergence. Now, convergence is when your eyes come in together in a coordinated fashion, and it's really important for your ability to track the ball as it comes in towards you and for your ability to judge distance and depth so that you can start your swing at the right time. But it also tells us a lot of information about the part, or one of the key parts of the brain that's responsible for visual spatial awareness. So even the smallest deficit with this particular skill gives us a lot of information and potential to help you improve your timing. And in my experience working with a lot of different tennis players, most people have more than just small deficits. Now, this is going to be an exercise that you want to record yourself doing. The vast majority of people that I speak to that have done this exercise think that they're doing it well when they're actually doing it really badly because the brain isn't able to process one of the images correctly due to something called visual suppression. We'll be testing for that in a moment, but I do recommend that you record this because when you watch yourself back on camera, it's really, really simple to see whether your eyes are doing this evenly and perfectly. So the drill, I'm going to hold the pen out at arm's length. I'm focusing my eyes on the tip of the pen and I'm bringing it slowly in to the bridge of my nose. And my eyes are still focused on the tip of the pen. And then I'm going to slowly take it away, like so. So slowly in and slowly take it away. That's what should happen. It should stay as a single target all the way in and all the way out. Now, there's a few different things that could go on for you. The first one is you could unintentionally cheat as a compensation. So you can just pull it into one of your eyes because it isn't moving very well and you think that you're doing it, but really there's obviously a problem with your left eye because you've just pulled it straight into there. So you want to record yourself and make sure that you're not doing that. Potentially you might take it down to the tip of your nose and do it that way. Again, that's a compensation for the muscle that isn't doing its job. So you've got to make sure you're going right in between your eyes. Now, what happens if you're not able to do this properly? The tip of the pen is going to start to split in two. So initially as you bring it in, it will get a little bit fatter and then it will split in two. And that's happening because one of the muscles isn't able to perform its function normally because the part of the brain that controls it isn't telling it what to do. So what you're going to do is kind of measure the distance at which the tip of the pen starts to split in two. Obviously, the further away, the bigger the deficit with this particular visual skill. The closer, the less deficit. But even if you can go all the way in, it's still possible to have a deficit. And I'm actually an example of this. If you watch my left eye, it's not quite as smooth as my right eye. Now, I had a lot of concussions in the past. I've dramatically improved things. When I first assessed this, I basically couldn't do it with either of my eyes properly. Now I've just got a tiny deficit on the left eye, and that's why you want to record yourself so you know what's going on. Now, one question you might have about this is you might go, well, this isn't so important because I don't track the ball that close to my body, and I know you don't. But like I said a moment ago, we're testing a really important part of the brain that's responsible for visual spatial awareness. So even a small issue in this area presents us with ways that we can hopefully dramatically improve your timing. For our next assessment, we're assessing something called visual suppression. And I just mentioned this a moment ago. Suppression is when your brain isn't able to use one of the images from your eyes as efficiently as the other one. Because our eyes are camera lenses. Their job is just to point at the target and send light information back to our brain. Our brain then blends those images together for binocular 3D vision. And If your brain isn't able to use both images effectively, it really affects your ability to judge distance and depth, which again is going to create huge problems for your ability to time the ball as well as you might need to play tennis at a higher level. So the assessment itself, we're using a funny bit of kit called a Brock string. It's just a string with beads on it. You can buy them really cheaply on Amazon or in other places. You can make them very simply yourself, or if you don't want to go to the trouble of doing that, you can just get a bit of string, tie a knot in it, and just look at the knot. I've even used lightning cables or phone cables with people looking at the end. But then your job is to hold the string to your nose. So here, I've got the yellow bead that I'm using to focus. I've just tied the other end onto my tripod to hold it. Normally I use a fence or I use a doorknob at home. And then I'm just going to look at the target. Now, normally when we do this, if we're using a Brock string, I like to assess this at 6 inches. I like to assess it at contact point distance, and I like to assess it as, maybe 10 to 12 feet, depending how long the string is. But I'm just going to show you the basic version of the assessment using this yellow bead, so hopefully you can see what my eyes are doing. So both of my eyes are looking, hopefully, directly at the center of the bead. And as I look at the center of the bead, I should see 2 strings going directly into the center of the bead and 2 strings coming out of the bead behind. Both of the strings should be evenly bright. Any deviation from that indicates a problem. So we'll talk about suppression first. If when you look at the bead, one of the strings is more faded, or if one of them isn't there, if you only see one string, that's full-on visual suppression. But there's different levels to it. Potentially you might look at the string and one of them is really bright and the other one is a little bit faded. The faded one is illustrating visual suppression. Now, in case you care, if the right one is faded, that's actually the left eye that's suppressed. If it's the left one that's faded, it's the right eye that's suppressed. Brains are complicated, they flip stuff off, flip stuff around when they process things, but all you need to know is if one of them is faded, there's visual suppression. If maybe it changes, so I see the right one, then I see the left one, and then I see the right one, and my brain can't decide, that's an indication of visual suppression. Maybe some of the string looks clear, but part of the string just disappears. That indicates visual suppression. I could be able to see it going to the bead, but I might not see any strings coming out of the bead. Anything other than 2 in, 2 out indicates visual suppression. But we can also find out about eye alignment issues with this assessment as well. The strings should cross directly in the center of the bead. If they cross before the bead, that indicates an eye alignment issue. If they cross after the bead, that indicates an eye alignment issue. And obviously anything we find within there is going to be creating a problem for your timing, and if we can address that problem, it is going to be very beneficial for your ability to have high level timing. Okay, so simple assessments, but they can give us a lot of information about your system is functioning. If you found any deficit, no matter how small it is, that means there is potential for us to work on that and improve your timing. Now, sometimes you can resolve deficits just by practicing the assessment over and over again, because those assessments can actually double up as training drills. Other times it's a little bit more complicated than that, and you need to do other stuff to kind of switch things on and get things working again. If you would like help with that side of things, this is what I work with tennis players doing, helping them to improve how the underlying systems function so they can play tennis at a higher level. Now, I've got 2 things that you can do. The first one is you can just apply to join my program, and that involves filling out a quick application and then jumping on a free call with me so we can see if things are a good fit. I'll place a link in the description so you can do that if you would like. The other option you've got is I've created a masterclass that's going to give you a lot more information about this. It's going to talk about vision and the importance in tennis. It's going to talk about improving coordination so you can improve your technique and get more control over your shots, and it's also going to dive into some other areas that are going to be really important for using brain-based training to improve your performance. If you're interested in that, I will also place a link up there and down there so you can check it out. But give these exercises, assessments a try, see how you get on. Leave me a comment down below. I would love to hear your results. Okay, I'll catch you next time.